Well, we got a response from Sony, specifically about them moving away from physical disc manufacturing in January 2028. The backlash is still ongoing online, on social media. It's everywhere. Whenever Sony makes a tweet or anything, there's just so many comments below that, community notes, it's all over the place, right? So you figure they would eventually have to say something, if nothing else, because there will be a meeting with investors. And you know what? Hey, I got to give credit to the investors out there. They actually asked questions over and over again about physical media and even asking about the criticism that's popping up online because it is that loud, to where they went in and said, hold on, is this going to be a problem for us, even with the margins that are getting thrown around? Like, will this hurt even the image of Sony? So we're going to take a look at some of the responses here from Lin Tao, the CFO over at Sony. So if you guys enjoy the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. So this was actually done up in a full transcript here that can go through over on stock analysis. I did go through and pick out some key quotes and questions, so we don't have to read through the whole thing here. I won't keep you for that long. First, though, she did mention memory market conditions for the PS5 hardware. Of course, a lot of concerns around prices going up for hardware with video cards, phones, computers, and game consoles. She did say they've secured the quantity of memory necessary to meet our projected sales volume for the current fiscal year, and there is no change to our plan for hardware profitability to remain similar to the previous fiscal year. We continue to aim for further growth of the install base while closely monitoring PS5 hardware demand trends and potential for securing additional memory. They're not necessarily saying that there won't be a price increase. They're just saying they were able to get the amount of RAM or memory that they needed so they can put together PS5s and ship them out for GTA 6. They have a certain amount that they have forecasted, and they want to hit that internally. Doesn't necessarily mean that they are not going to have to raise the price based on the way that these contracts seem to move around almost month by month. All right. So keep that in mind. They should be able to make enough PlayStation 5 systems, but will the price always stay where it is now throughout the rest of this fiscal year? That remains to be seen. And with that, let's move over to some of the questions that different investors and analysts had for Sony and Lin Tao, with the first one here being speaker 4. They say, about the game business, PS5, you're going to end the disc products. I think that you made a comprehensive decision on that, and there was some movement against that. And some of the consumer organizations have criticized you. Some have sued you. How did you come to that decision, and how do you respond to the criticism? Was this a decision that was necessary for the next generation game device, or was it intended for enhancing the margin? Was that a sales decision? Okay, Lin Tao responds saying PS5 ending disc production, the second question on this point. We announced that January 2028 onwards, we will no longer be manufacturing game discs 1.5 years ahead. We made this announcement at this time. There are various reasons we made this decision, the biggest being that the digitalization of content overall has been progressing. That's the big factor. It's not just for PlayStation, but for all kinds of contents, digitalization is progressing. When we think about the future, we put in a lot of thought and time. We cautiously considered this. We came to this conclusion. We're going to cautiously move forward to this decision. We have received various opinions. People have strong views. They certainly do. We understand that the community has put forth those views to us. Games are loved by many people. It's a form of entertainment that's loved by people. It's connected to people's fond memories in many cases. We understand those emotions. We want to consider that. In the future digital ecosystem, how do we engage the gamers is something that we would like to continue to explore. So, I mean, here's the thing. She's laying this out very bluntly in that they're going forward with this. Like, either way, they're bulldozing the internet if they have to get there. And we'll even go over some of the numbers why they believe they can do that here soon. But that's just it. It's just very straightforward. You know what? We announced this 1.5 years ahead of time. Want to make sure, like, hey guys, we were very thoughtful on that 1.5 years. But they do mention that they're going to cautiously move this forward. So I do think they are paying attention to what's happening online. And I think that's going to be very, very important for them to take into account when they move to next generation. I've already said before, we're not going to actually see like a major impact on this generation. Why? Because they've already reported they have like 95 million PlayStation 5 systems out in the wild. So I think most people have already, if they wanted a PS5, have already invested in one. You know, we're years and years into this generation. So they are now just selling to this install base that's already been formed. And this is when they typically end up making any of these companies, you know, Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony, towards the end of the generation. That's when they move significant amounts of software and add-on content and profit heavily. That's one of the reasons they will subsidize the system itself, because they know when they get enough of them out there, there will be years of them being able to make a bunch of money on a larger install base. So really it's going to come back to when they have to start from zero again with the PlayStation 6. How does that work out if they've used up their bank of goodwill? You know, as people will phrase it now, where there's like these decisions, little decisions here and there throughout the generation that have just ticked away. And now they're to the point where the straw that broke the camel's back was them just getting rid of Blu-ray, physical media, and going towards this all digital ecosystem where there is very limited choice and a lot of trust in the platform holder. Okay. Speaker 5 says, I also have two questions. First, well, as was asked about the termination of disc production, at present, for example, are you seeing users and sales go down? Do you have any forecast? Are you saying that you're not in position to make such forecasts yet? I want to know what you think the impact will be up until 2028. Lintao replied, saying, well, up until 2028, well, at this point in time, well, we are not seeing any impact on our business as of now. Going forward, about the content sales, I think large part is already digitized. Therefore, as a result of the discontinuation of a disc, we don't see that there will be any negative impact on our business. However, as I already said, the users, the players have attachments, and we have to think about how to respond to those feedback. So I actually think in the case of this response specifically here, it makes me believe that they will have a path forward for PlayStation 5 owners who have physical collections, like a bunch of PlayStation 5 cases and discs up on the shelf. And that makes me think that they will have some sort of detachable drive, or, you know, I've thought about this a bit. If you are already invested in the PlayStation 5 and you have one that takes a disc, you may have the detachable disk drive. If not, you may have maybe thought about getting it with, say, a PS5 Pro or, you know, the newer PS5 Slim or something like that. But you're at least aware of it. I've wondered if Sony would even think about a way to sell an enclosure for that. So yes, you have to still, you know, buy something extra, but it would then allow it to plug in through USB to the PS6, and you would still be able to play your PS5 physical games, you know, through installing it, of course, but at least be able to check that you have the game that way, and it still works, PS5 and PS4, because I do think Sony looks at this as, you know what, it is worth catering to people to bring their games forward, because if they are truly 90% physical, that will then actually give them a point to break away from PlayStation if they want, where they go, oh, well, like my media is not going to follow me forward anyway. Backwards compatibility and having built that like back catalog of own titles is a big deal going from one generation to the next, and really showed through with the PS4 to the PS5 versus the Xbox One to the Xbox Series. Sony dominated that PS4 generation. Yes, by annihilating Microsoft by saying you can use your physical PlayStation 4 games and share them, but really allowing owners of the PS4 to build up the digital library on their own accord, right? And then that followed them through to the PS5. So I think that is going to be important for them. And I kind of think that's what she's sort of alluding to here with the respond to those feedbacks. And then we have an analyst, Goldman Sachs, who says about the completion or the ending of the disc sales. Actually, there were two things that were asked the most here. The first one was about the earthquake, which Lintao, Sony, they did immediately discuss that and mention it, and like, hey, we had some like production lines and stuff that got damaged, and it's just like, yeah, it's fine, but the people are okay. Like, no one, like, there's no fatalities. There were some minor injuries, but they wanted to immediately make sure that everyone know that they didn't like lose lives or anything with that. But along with the earthquake, it's them ending like disc sales, right, in 2028, saying, I'm sure I understand the background. I understand that there will be an effect on the retailers. How do you position your relationship with the retailers as the discs disappear? Some of the users may feel that it's coming closer to gaming PC. How do you differentiate that from the gaming PC? That is a very good. Hey, shout out to analyst at Goldman Sachs. That's a good question. Lintow responded saying, for the last 30 years, we have been selling PlayStation, and the retail partners have always been important to us. With the completion of the disc production, we communicated this at an early stage so that we have enough time to be able to listen to various partners' voices. In North America, this has already happened, but without discs. In the package, there's a code included. That's how they sell in North America. About the retailers, there are regional characteristics for each regional partner. We try to have thorough dialogue so that we can end up in a win-win situation. Now, the differentiation from PC. We don't feel that the disc is the factor to differentiate from the PC. For PC, there's certain ways to play with the PC as an end user. It's a long tail. Our strength is that the curated contents, that's one of our strengths. The game environment being stable, that's another strength. Compared to the high-end gaming PC, our product is more affordable. We don't feel that the disc is a strong factor for differentiation. Going forward, we can coexist peacefully with PC games. See, I do disagree in that, like, so I don't think that's the sole differentiation, obviously, between PC and a gaming console like PlayStation. I think that is part of it, though, because the PC has moved away from physical media a while ago now. And when it comes to game systems, there was always that sense of going to the store and you see the box art, you get the disc or a cartridge or something, and then you get the system and you go home with it. But that has always been a thing for the mainstream and the way that they viewed it, especially when it comes to being that retail presence, right? And so she talks about affordability, and look, video cards are still going price. They're very expensive. But we also know with the used market with PC, you can get better deals, and you can even fall back to older hardware to still play newer games. But that's not necessarily the case for PlayStation. Like, so if they come out with a PS6 exclusive game, the PS5 will not play it, and then you have to get the PS6 then, right? If you really want to play that game. So I mean, it is more affordable. It is. Okay. So like you get a $600 PS5. I mean, look at the Steam machine. It's more than $1,000, and the PS5 does outperform it in different scenarios. So it's like, it's hard to argue if you have it like one-to-one like that. But again, the PC market is open, and there are a lot of things that aren't tacked on, like paying to play online with multiplayer, and soon enough, a singular store that you buy your digital games through. The other thing, and I mean, she is kind of right about this. The we'll say the curated contents, the game environment being stable. I know people are laughing about that as like PSM was just down. I think it's more so about the game system environment, as in if you're playing in the living room, this is going to work well. The game console is first and foremost for your entertainment center with the big TV and being able to navigate and use it solely with a controller. Now, if you play on Steam, or even like you play on a Steam OS equipped PC, there are still times where you'll download a game that's not curated, like what we have with the PS5, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, you gotta install DirectX, or you gotta punch in your email, and you gotta get the keyboard and mouse for this, and that does kind of break away from, again, the game environment being stable. The bottom line is the game console is still set up really well for the living room, and that's something that PC is still trying to catch up and figure out. And yes, that is a differentiating factor there. PC is getting better, but unfortunately, the Steam machine, which was something I thought that would have really accelerate stuff, it is just too expensive at this time, at least. But here's the thing: this is the reason why Sony's so confident right now. Their game and network services segment, they are making like stupid amounts of money right now, and they are projected in their forecast to make even more stupid amounts of money. Like if you look at what they are currently forecasting when it comes to their operating income, it's it's record breaking for them. Because this is the thing, they're in like the golden pocket for a generation with a system like the PS5, all right? Like they could go out and make less overall gross revenue or gross sales, but they can make more operating income, which is the bottom line, and that's what they're looking for. And not only that, like they get the tariff refund, so that happened. Great. Hey, I'm sure it's great for us to go. You know what? We were able to support the small and up and coming company like Sony there. So yes, they that is a positive. They point out right here, impact of U.S. tariff refunds. By the way, that's gonna be Microsoft and Nintendo as well. So yeah, I'm sure Nintendo will probably have something similar on their slide with this. But it appears they got back like overall $500 million or something. So anyway, the record breaking though is the thing. And yeah, you know why? GTA 6 is coming up. Even though it's code in a box, even though it's all digital, it's a game that people have been waiting forever for. It's going to be that generational release. It's going to break records, and Sony is going to take 30% of every sale and add it to their bottom line. And as they go along here through the rest of this calendar year and then into next calendar year, which would start to wrap up this fiscal year, it's going to do really well. But they will, after that, start to talk about the PS6. And that's where they will start to think about the added margins that they'll get for just all digital games. Because even though they're talking about ending like physical disc production in January 2028, the PS6 can come out holiday 2027 and it's just digital. And it's like, yeah, it's fine. We don't have to worry about making any PS6 box art or game discs. I guess they have to worry about I don't know. Again, I don't know how they're going to do it with the code in a box, and maybe they will have box art. That's just going to be super weird anyway. The point is, Sony is very confident right now. They believe that they can just bulldoze the situation here because the mainstream is indeed keeping them afloat. I do still wonder, will the mainstream show up when it's time to put $1,000 on the table potentially for a PS6? Because when I look at their financials and I realize add-on content is making more than physical media, like buying games just outright, which is, yes, a much smaller portion than digital. But when you take both of those combined, physical and digital, it doesn't get to the level of the add-on content, which, by the way, is like microtransactions, battle passes, everything else in the store with things like Fortnite and others. And it's like, wow, Sony really is driven mostly by free-to-play games at this point that aren't even theirs. So it's, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting time going from the PS5 to the PS6 as you feel like the enthusiast crowd that they would indeed have been looking to pursue to get the PS6 generation started. I think there's going to be a chunk, not all, because there are people who are just digital now, but there's going to be a chunk that's going to feel kind of burned by Sony, and they have a lot to show, I feel like, with the PS6. Sony does. They got to have a really good pitch for that system. Like, really good pitch. There's still so many questions around how this is going to work and what this means exactly for people with a bunch of games, PS5 discs, PS4 discs, up on their shelf right now. We don't even know if there will be a external disc drive. So this really was just Sony going, you know what? We're doing it. That's it. So I will say, though, cautiously moving forward. So, I mean, hey, people I think are still going to keep bugging them in their comments, keep letting them know, keep ticking away at them as Sony's kind of ticked away at many longtime PlayStation gamers out there. And we'll see how that works out for them again after we get beyond GTA 6, after we get past this fiscal year. What does this mean for Sony when it's time for next generation and they got to start from zero? But let me know what you guys think about this one down below in the comments with some of the quotes here. Went through all of them, okay, through the transcript. So let me know what you guys think down below. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.